want to answer a very simple question. Is there any possibility or any chance that President Ruto will win the 2027 general election? Will President Ruto get re-elected into his second term? Is there any possibility or is there any formula that he can use to get votes for his re-election? And without further ado, let's get into that analysis. But if you're watching for the first time, always remember to subscribe. And appear you can drop your comments about this analysis in the comment section. Now, ladies and gentlemen, an election is determined from two dimensions. Number one, we have the economic dimension of it, and then we have the tribal arithmetics of it. In 2022 general election, President Ruto won from the economic dimension of it. And when I say the economic dimension of this analysis is what I mean by the what happened where he came up with the Asla narrative, number one. Remember that he used the Asla narrative very well, where he confused people about money in the pockets, came up with the Kazi ni Kazi, and the Asla the dynasty of the bottom-up agenda. That sold very well. That's what we mean by saying the economic dimension of the political or winning the politics or winning the presidency. You have to come up with a very good economic strategy that will appeal the entire nation. And that's why President Ruto was able to get votes from Mount Kenya region and all other parts of the country. So that's the first way of winning an election. The second way of winning an election is tribal arithmetics. Tribal or regional arithmetics is where people go and talk to the people of their regions, form a coalitions with people of their regions and vote according to their tribal arrangements. So these are the two things or two major things that determine the outcome of a presidential election, especially in 2027. One of them must play out. Will it be an economic dimension or will it be a regional or tribal dimension? Let's get into it and look what will happen in 2027. Now, for President Ruto's chances in 2027, this is what the questions that you must ask yourself. Number one, President Ruto came in from an economic perspective. And what are the regions that supported him through that economic belief of his agendas? The first region that greatly supported him was the Mount Kenya region. What are the people of the Mount Kenya region perceiving of the current regime and administration that they voted in? Remember that the Mount Kenya region voted President Ruto 50%, nusu ya kura alizopata in 2022, so which was about 3.5 million votes. Will they regain or will they give him that voting block in 2027? As we know with the things that are happening right now, that block is already gone. That's not a question that we have to deliberate, but if you're on the ground, if you have listened to the people of the ground, all the way from the impeachment of the deputy president, former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua, you can ultimately understand that the people of the Mount Kenya region, President Ruto has lost that grip. So on the economic part of it, President Ruto is losing because the biggest region that believed in his economic agenda that propelled his re-election has already left. What about other small regions or other parts of the countries that gave him a vote alongside? What are the people saying? What is the perspective of other regions? If you go to Western region that supported him, will you think that in 2027 they'll vote for him? Do you think that parts like Kisii will vote for President Ruto because in 2022 they supported him? What about the coastal region? Now, the bad thing with the economic view of the leadership or the presidency or seeking presidency is that people, when you fail to perform as a leader who promised people to achieve certain things, then you lose grip the entire nation. Because people believed on your leadership from an economics perspective. Because if sugar is on higher price, it affects the entire nation. If the cost of living is on higher price, it will affect the entire nation. It doesn't choose tribes. So on the economic perspective, President Ruto has already lost that grip. Second is what we call the regional or tribal arithmetics. Do you think that the tribal arithmetics can work for President Ruto in 2027 general election? Is there tribal arithmetics? No. The biggest challenge that President Ruto is facing right now is what I can call the Bantu against the Nilots, because that's what ultimately is happening. Because if you see, we have the Luos and the Kalenjins who tend to be coming together. Then we have the Mount Kenya region communities, we have the Campus, we have the Luyas, we have the Kisis, we have even other Embus, Merus coming together to form a coalition. Should that work, what are the numbers? What are the regional numbers? Because if you see Matiang'i in the opposition, you see Rigathi Gachagua in that opposition, you see Kalonzo, you see the likes of Martha Karua, Justin Muturi from the other side of Mount Kenya East. Is there a possibility that this coalition can lose if Kenyans decide to vote, or if that 2027 election goes to a tribal or regional arithmetics? It's very difficult to win against the Bantus, because the Bantus, you can see that they have numbers. Secondly, that the Mount Kenya region has about 6 million votes. Milioni sita. And it's a very simple mathematics. These votes that we say, you don't need rocket science to understand how they sum up to 6 million. If they voted for President Ruto 50%, that's 3.5 million votes. They gave Raila Odinga about 1 million votes, that's 4.5 million votes. Then there are other people of our Mount Kenya regions who are outside the Mount Kenya region, voting in places like Nakuru, coastal regions. And also the turnout was not 100%. That's why that voting block of the Mount Kenya region is 6 million plus votes. And that voting block will go to one coalition in case the opposition will remain united. So that's the arithmetic on the ground, depending what will happen in 2027. It's very difficult to win from the economical class. And in any case, President Ruto will have a chance. Then you'll have to try the regional arithmetics. And the only way that regional arithmetics can work is trying to get as many leaders as possible to his sides so that he can influence certain background to vote for him. For instance, you saw him reaching out to Gideon Moi. That was a move to consolidate the Rift Valley region to ensure that the region, the East Ombak or East Omyad, will entirely vote, or will try to convince, and a good percentage of it will vote for him in 2027, because it could be a very bad implication that part of his region doesn't re-elect him in 2027. And that's why he made that quick move to ensure that Gideon Moi is withdrawn from that senatorial by-elections. And I know that that one did not, that conversation did not just end there. It goes beyond 2027 election. It goes beyond even what will happen after that election, because if you see the two powerful leaders from the Rift Valley region, is President Ruto, and Moi is one, also Gideon Moi is one of also of the most influential leaders from that region. So trying to come and work with Gideon Moi is a move to ensure that he consolidates the Rift Valley region. We'll be seeing what moves he will make. Consolidating Nyanza region has become difficult because of the Kisii factor. Kisii is already withdrawn from there, the Nyanza, Luo Nyanza part of it. And President Ruto has made a lot of this regime has made a lot of attempts to ensure that Kisii, they try to sway Kisii. If you saw the other day, there were a lot of empowerments happening in Kisii. Week after week, there were empowerments in Kisii. Weeks after a week, there was an empowerment happening in a constituency in Kisii. And the reasoning beyond that was simple. It was a move to try and consolidate Nyanza. Because if you have the Luos and you have the Kisii, then that means that the entire Nyanza is consolidated, but which has seemed difficult because of the influence of Fred Okengo Matiang'i, who comes from the Kisii region. What about Western region? We're waiting to see the moves that will be made. I'll be informing you as in the next analysis what are the potential moves that are being made and what can happen in the Western region ahead of the 2020 election. You can tell me what you think about this analysis. I'll take my time to read and give you a response. And in case police you like this way, you should be subscribe and drop a comment in the comment section. Let's meet next time. Have a nice day ahead.